What's up out there, everybody? Buckle up and rewind that VHS tape because we're diving into the next 10 entries in my countdown of the top 100 movies from the 1990s. In this episode, the thrills are high, the emotions run deep, and the explosions are very 90s. We've got Scottish heroin addicts, icy mountain rescues, explosive car chases, sweaty interrogation rooms, and one very determined fugitive who definitely didn't kill his wife. Today I'm breaking down the movies I have ranked 80 through 71, and with stars like Connery and Stone and Tommy Lee Jones and Cage and De Niro and Stallone and others all showing up, this batch of movies brings the kind of big screen energy that just defined the 90s altogether. Whether you're here for the high stakes action, the smoky noir vibes, or just some gloriously over the top acting, this stretch of the list has it all and maybe even offers you a fireball or two. So let's hit play on movies 80 through 71. Directed by Danny Boyle, Trainspotting dives headfirst into the lives of heroin addicts in Edinburgh with a punk rock pulse and a whole lot of attitudes. Ewan McGregor, Robert Carlyle, and Johnny Lee Miller headline this dark, electric, and strangely beautiful ride through addiction, nihilism, and toilet metaphors that you'll never unsee. Welcome to Edinburgh's underbelly, where the carpets are sticky, the toilets are legendary, and heroin addiction has never looked so kinetic. Danny Boyle's Trainspotting isn't just a drug movie, though. It's a cultural Molotov cocktail hurled directly into the face of British cinema in the 90s. It follows Renton, Spud, Sick Boy, and the terrifyingly unhinged Begbie as they bounce between highs, lows, scams, and eventual wake-up calls. This, however, is not the somber PSA-style addiction movie of yesteryear. Trainspotting is funny, it's fast, and weirdly charming before it just tears your heart out. I really think Boyle directs this movie with just a breakneck style. You get camera tricks, freeze frames, and surreal dives into toilets, and a soundtrack that's basically the mixtape of a generation. This movie made McGregor a star overnight, and it really did just kick open the doors for British indie cinema. It's anti-establishment, it's angry, and yet it somehow balances squalor with style without ever flinching. Yet Trainspotting doesn't glamorize anything. It shows the devastating cycles of addiction, the despair that clings even after the high fades, and the painful compromises of choosing survival over destruction, all without sacrificing narrative energy or just razor-sharp wit. I think Trainspotting just became a counterculture classic, a fashion influence, and the movie your cool friend in college just insisted you watch, and honestly, they were right. Sylvester Stallone trades the Philly streets for snowy peaks, and Cliffhanger, a high-altitude action thriller directed by Rennie Harlan, when a mountain rescue turns into a deadly game of cat and mouse with a crew of skyjacking thieves. It's all ropes, revenge, and one-liners, all above the clouds in a 90s movie that feels like it just came right out of the 80s. Now, if Die Hard ever climbed a mountain and wrestled with gravity, it would look a lot like Cliffhanger. This high-altitude action flick features Stallone as a traumatized mountain rescue ranger who will face off against John Lithgow's delightfully over-the-top British villain who may or may not have studied criminal psychology at Evil Henchman University, set in the snowy peaks of the Rockies, but shot mostly in the Italian Alps. Cliffhanger opens with one of the most traumatic rope-snapping sequences in 90s cinema that was parodied for years to come, and this really just promptly sets the tone because this movie is not messing around with your fear of heights. After a botched mid-air heist gone wrong leads a group of criminals to losing millions of dollars in briefcases scattered across the mountains, Stallone is the reluctant hero, forced back into his harnesses and his gear and trauma to clean up the mess. Simply put, Cliffhanger is just pure action movie spectacle. It's got daring stunts, majestic mountain shots, and fight scenes on ledges narrower than a breadstick. Lithgow chews through his villain role like he's competing for the best 007 villain, and the supporting cast is great. It includes Michael Rooker yelling with purpose in almost every scene, and Janine Turner as the obligatory love interest / pilot combo. Really released in an era of beefy action heroes, cliffhanger thrived. It managed to cling to box office success thanks to its just commitment to practical effects and its sheer nerves. There's no CGI parachutes here, just real stuntmen dangling off cliffs and looking absolutely miserable doing it. I mean, is it realistic? Not remotely. Is it awesome? Absolutely. And if your hands didn't sweat at least once during this movie, then you might already be part mountain goat. Michael Bay's The Rock is a glorious, explosion-filled jailbreak flick in reverse, starring Sean Connery as a rogue SAS inmate and Nicolas Cage in full action movie mode at the time in Hollywood as a jittery chemist, and together they must team up to stop Ed Harris from unleashing bioweapons on San Francisco from inside Alcatraz with only the Bayhem to guide them. To me, The Rock is what happens when you give Michael Bay a Hollywood allowance, toss Nicolas Cage, Sean Connery into Alcatraz, and then add enough explosives to rattle the Golden Gate Bridge. The Rock is really the most 90s action movie that ever 90s action movied. And I do say that with love. This glorious, patriotic powder keg has certainly become a cult classic, not just for its action, but for its memorable moments, its relentlessly quotable one-liners, and just its insane premise overall. Here, Cage plays this nervous FBI chemical weapons specialist who, despite having never fired a gun in his life, is suddenly sent on a hostage rescue mission. Why? Because terrorists led by Ed Harris have taken over Alcatraz with rockets filled with this lethal VX gas, and the only man who can help sneak Cage in is a former British spy who's been illegally imprisoned since the 60s, played by Sean Connery, basically playing James Bond if M16 had locked him up for decades and threw away the key. Now, as a movie, The Rock barely stops to breathe. It races through gunfights, car chases through San Francisco, secret underground tunnels, and moments where Cage has to literally stab himself in the heart with a giant syringe. You know, just a casual Wednesday, and my friends and I ate this movie up, and we watched it at the drive-in theater so many times during the summer of '96. I think Cage brings peak weirdo energy here. Connery somehow makes you believe he does know Alcatraz's every secret rat tunnel, and Ed Harris gives a real emotional just weight to a performance that could have otherwise just resulted in a cardboard villain. To me, The Rock is stylish, it's bombastic, and still quotable years later. And really in the pantheon of action movies, I do think The Rock remains as a monument to the genre's just absurd glory. Brian De Palma brings split screens and swirling conspiracies to Snake Eyes, a slick Atlantic City set thriller starring Nicolas Cage as this corrupt cop who stumbles into a political assassination at a boxing match with Gary Sinise and Carla Gugino tossed in, and a camera that never stops swirling in a mystery that spirals fast, flashy, and fun. Snake Eyes really is De Palma in full stylish madman mode. Long takes, swirling camera moves, and Nicolas Cage let completely off the leash as this corrupt Atlantic City cop with bad suits and worse ethics. This one opens up with a beautiful, seamless 13-minute single shot that tracks Cage through a boxing match, a political rally, and eventually through a very public assassination. This movie is part mystery, it's part fever dream, and all De Palma doing jazz hands behind the camera. It's set entirely inside a gaudy casino and just a boxing arena during a thunderstorm, because why not literally add some more atmosphere to this movie? Snake Eyes starts like a sports movie, it twists into a conspiracy thriller, and it ends up somewhere between Hitchcock and high camp. Cage thinks he's got it all figured out until he kind of stumbles into a mess involving missile defense systems, a mysterious woman in white, and his best friend, a Navy commander played by Gary Sinise, who may or may not be as clean-cut as his uniform. Overall, Snake Eyes is fun, it's flashy, it's ridiculous, it's kind of glorious. De Palma leans into his signature split screens and overhead angles and just endless amounts of theatrical tension, while Cage, decked out like an Eastern European gangster, acts like someone dared him to out-weird every scene, and he might have succeeded here. I mean, though this movie did divide critics at the times, Snake Eyes is another movie that has gained a cult status for its bold direction and just its unhinged energy overall. It's not your typical action thriller. It's more like Rashomon if everybody was sweating and scheming and yelling inside a casino at 2 a.m. It may not solve all of its plot threads, but like a bet gone wrong, Snake Eyes is a spectacle that you can't look away from, even if the odds were never really in its favor. Ronin is a moody, cerebral action film directed by John Frankenheimer, where Robert De Niro and Jean Reno lead a team of international operatives chasing a mysterious briefcase through Europe with thrilling, realistic car chases and double crosses at every turn. It's just really spy thriller poetry in motion. In a sea of late 90s CGI-fueled chaos, I always thought Ronin was kind of a glorious throwback. It's a moody, grown-up spy thriller where trust is a myth, the car chases are real, and Robert De Niro has never looked more skeptical. A Ronin is named after a masterless samurai, and that's exactly what I think this crew of mercenaries feel like. World-weary warriors for hire, navigating a Europe filled with shadows and secrets. The setup is delightfully vague. We get a group of international operatives, played by De Niro, Jean Reno, Stellan Skarsgård, and Sean Bean. They're hired to steal this mysterious briefcase. What's inside? Doesn't really matter. Who's hiring them? It is a good question. As the double crosses pile up, this briefcase really just turns into a MacGuffin, more slippery than Puff at a freak-off. And then there are the car chases, the magnificent car chases, some of the most pulse-pounding sequences ever put to film, using real stunt drivers just tearing through the narrow streets of Paris and Nice. There's no green screen, no shortcuts, just steel, speed, and screaming tires. It's really cinematic horsepower in pure form. I think De Niro really does anchor Ronin with just a dry wit and the unflinching eyes of someone who's seen a lot and probably caused most of it. Jean Reno, I really like him in this one as well. He adds heart as De Niro's quiet ally, and Natasha McElhone really does keep you guessing as the icy liaison with maybe too many secrets. Now, Ronin didn't really explode at the box office, but I do think its legacy has grown. It's become, to me at least, a gold standard for smart action and sophisticated spy cinema. It's the kind of film that rewards rewatching, especially if you enjoy your intrigue laced with existentialism and your shootouts with a side of class. Paul Verhoeven's Basic Instinct is a steamy, stylish noir film where Michael Douglas plays a detective tangled up with a seductive and possibly homicidal author played up iconically by Sharon Stone. There's a murder in this one, sex, mind games, sex, and that interrogation scene, all wrapped in sultry San Francisco fog and sex. Now, Basic Instinct didn't just stir controversy. This erotic thriller made headlines around the world. It sparked debates and raked in hundreds of millions of dollars while redefining the term psychosexual mind game. This is part film noir, part fever dream, and all very, very provocative. Michael Douglas plays a low-key, unstable San Francisco detective who is still allowed to carry a badge and a gun despite a hefty list of behavioral red flags. He's investigating the ice pick murder of this rock star and is immediately entranced by the prime suspect, Catherine Trammell, played by Sharon Stone, in a role that just launched her into superstardom. Stone's a seductive, manipulative, razor-sharp mystery novelist who may or may not have used her own book as a blueprint for murder, and that's really the thrill. Everybody's guilty, no one's trustworthy, and of course, everyone's sleeping with one another. The interrogation scene alone became the stuff of a legend, and just instant parody and endless debate about what people did or didn't see. I think Verhoeven directs the hell out of this one with his signature mix of sleaze and satire, and behind all the steamy thrills, I think Basic Instinct is a slick, stylish crime story drenched in danger and moral ambiguity. Douglas, to his heart, tries his best to solve this case with his hormone howitzer, but it's Stone who easily walks away with this film, blending vulnerability and menace like a cinematic cocktail you probably shouldn't drink, but you more than likely will anyways. Basic Instinct is shameless, it's stylish, it's smarter than people give it credit for. It's also a masterclass in how to make the audience complicit. You'll question your morals, you'll question your detective instincts, and you may question the lack of acrobatics in your own love life. When New York City falls under martial law after a wave of terrorist attacks, Denzel Washington, Annette Bening, and Bruce Willis will have to navigate the moral minefield in Edward Zwick's The Siege. Equal parts thriller and political commentary, it feels eerily prescient in hindsight. To me, The Siege is one of those 90s thrillers that kind of hit like a prophecy. It imagined a scenario that many at the time considered unthinkable, a wave of terrorist attacks hitting New York City, leading to the military occupation of American soil. At the time, audiences didn't really quite know what to make of this movie, but it was completely gripping, and in hindsight, it plays like a chilling foreshadowing of post 9/11 America, complete with moral gray zones, panic politics, and here, Bruce Willis fully activated as a tough guy general. Denzel Washington stars in this one as an FBI agent with the voice of reason. He's caught between duty, civil liberties, and pure chaos when bombs begin exploding across the city and panic takes over. Martial law is declared. The U.S. Army rolls in, led by Willis, whose idea of containment involves curfews and tanks and rounding up entire communities. Annette Bening adds some intrigue to this as a shadowy CIA operative with secrets and personal stakes. She does a great job of kind of blurring the line between ally and liability. Zwick here doesn't shy away from the uncomfortable questions like who gets sacrificed in the name of national security, what happens when fear overrides freedom. While the movie didn't really receive universal praise on release, with some criticizing its dramatics and its implausibility, it has really aged like a political time capsule that somehow predicted a future it couldn't have known. Washington here is reliably excellent, grounding the film with conviction and weariness. Willis is great. He just plays this role with an icy calculation, and the action, though sparingly deployed, really lands hard when it hits. The siege is intense, it's urgent, and eerily ahead of its time. It's not always subtle, but it's never dull, and it wants you to feel uncomfortable, and in today's context, it absolutely succeeds. Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights chronicles the rise and fall of 70s porn star Dirk Diggler. Mark Wahlberg here leads a scene-stealing ensemble, including actors like Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, Don Cheadle, and Philip Seymour Hoffman in a fun, flashy, and tragic film that's as emotionally revealing as it is revealing. To me, Boogie Nights is like the cinematic equivalent of a mirror ball, glittering, spinning, colorful, and reflecting both the highs and the heartbreaks of the adult film industry during the 70s. This late 90s epic is somehow both a rise and fall story and a twisted and heartbreaking family drama. Think Goodfellas meets Behind the Green Door with the killer soundtrack, better lighting, and a little bit more chest hair. Here at the center of everything is Wahlberg as this sweet but dim busboy who becomes Dirk Diggler, an overnight adult film sensation thanks to his remarkable banana cannon. Julianne Moore plays the older, emotionally damaged but maternal porn star who takes him under her wing and to her bedroom, while Burt Reynolds gives a career-reviving performance as a director who still believes that adult films can be art. Here, Anderson assembles what I think is just a wild and wonderful ensemble cast. Philip Seymour Hoffman as a closeted boom mic operator with a crush, John C. Reilly as Dirk's dumb but lovable sidekick, Heather Graham is Roller Girl, and Don Cheadle trying to sell stereo equipment while he's dressed up like a rhinestone cowboy. Here, everybody really gets their moment. Boogie Nights really charts the adult film industry's shift from the glitzy, almost glamorous late 70s into the sad VHS-fueled 80s, and then things go dark fast. I remember watching this movie when I was like 19 years old and thinking, maybe I don't want to be a porn star when I grow up. But even at its bleakest moments, drug binges, botched robberies, Alfred Molina dancing to Sister Christian, Boogie Nights pulses with life, rhythm, and empathy. It's big, it's bold, it's oddly tender. It's a cautionary tale wrapped in gold lame, cocaine, and disco grooves. You'll laugh, you'll cringe, maybe cry, and you'll never hear Jesse's Girl the same way again. Ron Howard's Backdraft was one of the first event films I remember as a teenager. It ignites a high-emotion, brotherly firefighting saga starring Kurt Russell and William Baldwin and Robert De Niro as they battle blazes and a mysterious arsonist in Chicago with real flames and searing tension. It's a firehouse soap opera with blockbuster heat that just captured the hearts of the country during the summer of 1991. Backdraft is the kind of immersive movie that'll just make you smell smoke by watching it. This firefighting drama is equal parts sizzle and sibling rivalry, all wrapped in a thick coat of ash and soot, sweat, and Chicago grit. It's not just about fire, it's about fire as a character, one that growls and stalks and strikes with almost a supernatural precision. Here, Kurt Russell stars as the veteran firefighter. He's the kind of tough guy who charges into a burning building with more swagger than safety gear. William Baldwin plays his younger brother. He's a rookie trying to escape his big brother's shadow while still trying to figure out if he's even cut out for this inferno-filled life. Their dad, of course, died fighting a blaze when they were kids, so let's just say their family dinners have plenty of Bud Light and tension. Then we get Robert De Niro as a burnt-out arson investigator with a gravelly voice and an eye for fire's signature, and we also get Donald Sutherland as an unhinged firebug who speaks about flames like they're his lost love. You sprinkle in some political corruption, some firehouse drama, and some of the best practical fire effects ever put to screen, and Backdraft truly just ignites cinematically. Ron Howard doesn't just film fires here, he choreographs them. The explosions are real, the flames really dance, you feel the danger. This movie was just a smash hit. It earned Oscar nods. It made every 90s kid consider becoming a firefighter for about 5 minutes. This really was one of the first films I can remember the whole family gathering around to watch together. It certainly made that fire truck love scene more awkward than needed. But regardless, Backdraft is dramatic, it's explosive, it's proudly old school, and sure, it leans heavily into the melodrama, but when the walls are melting and the brothers are yelling at one another, you're way too locked in to even care. Harrison Ford runs for his life as the wrongly accused Dr. Richard Kimball in The Fugitive, with Tommy Lee Jones hot on his trail as the relentless U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard, directed by Andrew Davis. This is just a breathless manhunt that mixes sharp thrills with award-winning chase sequences and just world-class performances. To me, The Fugitive is one of those rare 90s thrillers that was able to take a very simple setup, an innocent man on the run, and elevate it to near perfection. This 1993 juggernaut follows a respected Chicago surgeon. He's been wrongfully convicted of murdering his wife, and after a spectacular prison bus train crash that's still visually jaw-dropping to watch all these years later, Kimball escapes and begins the ultimate game of cat and mouse. His mission, to find the real killer. Their mission, to find him before he does. Enter U.S. Marshal Sam Gerard, played perfectly by Tommy Lee Jones, in a performance that's just so commanding and dryly hilarious that it would win him an Oscar, and rightfully so, because he does steal every scene in this movie that he's in with his deadpan authority and his one-liners that somehow turn bureaucratic intensity into blockbuster gold. And overall, what I think makes The Fugitive work so well is just how seriously it takes its characters. Campbell isn't an action hero. He's just a normal guy trying to stay alive and using his smarts to do so. I think the tension comes nicely from the many close calls and the brainy sleuthing and the constant push-pull between predator and prey. And Gerard, while relentless, he's not the villain either. He's just good at his job. I think this movie mixes those characters with great practical stunts and sharp editing and a pace that never quits. Ford's all grit and worry. He's running through dams and spillways and impersonating janitors, and all through his intellect, he's really able to always keep a step ahead. This movie was just a massive hit when it was released. It was another of those movies like Backdraft that I remember the whole family gathering for. The Fugitive would be a film that would prove that intelligence, great casting, and taut direction could still very much blow up at the box office. It would also kick off a wave of Wrong Man on the Run movies, none of which, though, would not come close to topping the heights that The Fugitive would reach. And there you have it, guys. Films 80 through 71, where every movie came in hot, heavy, or just plain unhinged. We ran with the addicts in Edinburgh. We dangled off the cliffs with Stallone. We broke into Alcatraz with Cage, and witnessed Sharon Stone literally change the temperature of the room with the cross of one leg. These weren't just movies, they were cinematic time bombs packed with iconic moments and daring direction and performances that either won Oscars or made you spill your popcorn. And the best part of everything is we're just getting warmed up, guys. So if you thought things were intense up to this point, just wait until we hit the top 70. It only gets better from here. Subscribe, stay tuned, and get ready because the countdown is only going to get wilder from here. I hope to see you guys all in the next episode. And until then, movies never say die.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?